The last 48 hours, we have gotten some recent injury updates surrounding around Kevin Durant, Ryan Dunn, and Grayson Allen. So we're going to be looking at all three of those players and looking at the potential of what they could be for this Suns team in these next couple of games as they have been dealing with those injuries. Will they be back? Will they not be? We'll be looking at all of that and more on this episode of Suns Digest. I'm Bruce Velez. Without further ado, let's dive into the video at hand. Make sure to grab a snack. And like I said in the introduction, this is needed for success, and the Suns really need these players to come back healthy. As we've seen, this Suns roster look solid when it is healthy at 100%, with players like Durant, players like Ryan Dunn, who help out the defensive side, players like Grayson Allen, one of the better shooters on this bench unit, go down with these injuries. It definitely hinders the success of this team as a whole unit, and it's what's caused the Phoenix Suns to have a lot of issues. Amongst some other things, obviously, some issues in the center department, obviously not being fully healthy there, obviously dealing with some turnover issues as well. The Suns not necessarily knowing how to be the most effective defensive team as a unit as well. And all those things realistically add up with all of these injuries. Now, if you guys know, if you missed the recent video, go check it out. But we broke it down just a couple days ago, going over the Kevin Durant news. So I will gloss over it just a little bit. But as we all know with Kevin Durant, is there's severe optimism in the Suns organization that Durant will be readily available for Friday's contest versus the Utah Jazz. And if he is not available for tomorrow's contest, then he will be available for Sunday's matchup versus the Blazers. The Suns are very high on that and feel very confident that Durant will be back at least for one of those two games, which is key for the Suns' success. As we saw with Durant so far this season, he's been the MVP for the Suns. But the Suns, like I mentioned, have some other guys also on that injury report as well that we need to look at and we need to discuss. So, like I mentioned in the introduction, Mike Budenholzer, head coach, was seen talking to Gerald Bourguet and a bunch of other Phoenix Suns reporters as well. But I got this from Gerald, where he said gave some updates. Yusuf Nurkic and Ryan Dunn were doing everything in practice so far, saying that kept looking better and better. Said Kevin Durant did most of the practice as well, 90%, and they're hopeful with him. Fortunately for Grayson Allen, though, he has seen the less production on practice as he is only at 20% from what Mike Budenholzer could see. And if we want to look at these updates, like I mentioned, we want to see from Dwayne Rankin. We could see yesterday at practice Josh Kogi, Bol Bol, and Ryan Dunn were working on those free throws and something that is needed for the Suns. But having Ryan Dunn working on those and getting some practice is key. And also looking at this from Mike Budenholzer as well, he has noticed that the defensive efforts have been a stressful thing as well, saying that the Suns have struggled on the defensive side without Kevin Durant. And I think it's defensively, we're probably not as good as we used to be to win these games. We had a couple of rough stretches defensively within some of these games, and I don't think the rebounding has stood out as well. And obviously, you can look at injuries for obviously that. Yusuf Nurkic, even though he hasn't brought a lot for this Suns team, has been able to provide a solid big body in the paint and has been able to provide some solid rebounding as well for the Suns, averaging around 10 rebounds. So without having him in the lineup, dealing with that hamstring injury as well, it is definitely hindering this Suns team. But Nurkic, as like we said as well, should be returning as well from his hamstring injury, which will be key. A little bit of a tongue twister there, which will be key for the Suns, like I mentioned, is just having another big body. Now, Nurkic hasn't looked the best on the offensive side, maybe hasn't been the best defender as well for the Suns, but just having an extra big man in case Mason Plumlee looks a little bit lost, in case Oso Ighodaro isn't having the best game offensively, it is key and necessary, like I mentioned. But for this Suns team, like we kind of went over, like we kind of discussed here, obviously these injuries are key for this defense to kind of step up and for the Suns fans to overall see what we have with our roster. As we mentioned before, the Suns have been on a decline since that red hot start in October. The month of November going into December, it hasn't been the greatest second half for the Suns. So kind of getting back from these injuries, getting this much needed rest to heal up, get that extra practice in is going to be key for the Suns, I think, in coming out on a strong suit as they take on two of the weaker teams in the Western Conference on Friday and Sunday, in the Utah Jazz and the Portland Trail Blazers, to get them on the right track and to get them going. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Ultimately, on these players coming back. and like I mentioned, who will be back by tomorrow. As we obviously mentioned, we kind of went over that, but I do believe a player in Durant will be available alongside Yusuf Nurkic and a player in Ryan Dunn, as Coach Mike Budenholzer has obviously stated that those guys have been going through a majority of the practices. Durant might need an extra day, so push him to Sunday. For Grayson, I would think it would be a little bit of a longer timetable. He was dealing with an ankle injury, and the last game that the Suns did play before they went on this break, Mike Budenholzer did announce that. And if he's only at 20% at practice, I don't necessarily seeing him suit up for tomorrow. I think the Suns will be extra precautious with Grayson dealing with these ankle injuries. But once again, Grayson now dealing with another injury added on the list. It's just a tough season for this Suns team as the injury bug just cannot get to go away. But if we want to look at these three players for the Suns, like we mentioned, Durant, 26 points, 6.7 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 53% from the field, and 45% from three. He has been the Suns MVP this season, and I truly think would be an MVP conversations if one, the Suns were a little bit better in the Western Conference, and two, if he played more games, because his impact for this Suns team is what an MVP is. If you take that player out, that team absolutely folds. Look at the Denver Nuggets. If you take away Nikola Jokic, that team is going to be a bottom feeder. If you look at the Suns, you take away Kevin Durant, unfortunately, they are a bottom feeder. So Kevin Durant definitely deserved to be in those talks, even if he's not mentioned in them. Another player, Ryan Dunn, who's been really solid for this team off the bench, 30% from three, 40% from the field, 6 points, 2.7 rebounds. Been a solid defender for this bench unit. And like I mentioned, the Suns have lost Ryan Dunn these last couple games, and some of these games have been close, and they've lost these defensive efforts in the third quarter. Having a player like Ryan Dunn could keep that ignition going and could keep this team still in these games to not have these third quarter collapses. I'm not saying he's going to absolutely change it, but he's definitely going to limit it from the opponent as well, which would help the Suns maybe get one or maybe even two of these closer games at the buzzer without Durant. And lastly, if we want to look at Grayson Allen, like I mentioned, 11 points, 2.9 rebounds, 40% from the field, 38% from three. Grayson had a little bit of a slow start to the season this year with the Suns, dealing with the birth of his newborn baby, dealing with a new role coming off the bench. But Grayson has truly found himself in Phoenix, shooting off the bench for this team, and I truly think that his road numbers will continuously to get better through the season. I truly think it was about Grayson finding his role, finding his kind of path to being successful in that six man for this team. He clearly found it over that last stretch or so in the past week. Unfortunately, he's dealing with another injury, but if he comes back from this ankle injury, can find that rhythm once again. I think Grayson Allen will be a valuable piece for this Suns team in contention, or possibly as a valuable trade piece if the Suns don't have anything other that other franchises are wanting. But let me know what you ultimately think down below in the comment section. Like I said, we went over this Suns multiple injury updates as these have serious implications with this Suns team. Because if they get all these guys back, they can be healthy, they can be contending, and they can at least get a couple more wins, kind of figure out where their discrepancies are on the defensive side, and ultimately figure out what roles they need to go out there to get to make sure that this team is in championship contention like they were at the beginning of the season. But as you guys know, it's been absolutely fantastic. I really do appreciate all your thoughts, all your comments. So drop them down below in the comment section. If you do enjoy the content, hit the like and hit that subscribe button to help out CJ and I reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much and have a great rest of your day. Go Phoenix Suns. Peace out.